All right, Kyle. So 4 in a row for the Avalanche without Nathan McKinnon. So what are we going to get for him in trade?
Uh, future considerations.
Yeah, that's all we need. We don't need anything. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. Joining me today, we set it up yesterday for him to join the show after the Kraken game. Mr. Shaggy Von Doom is with me. And no, we're not really going to give up Nathan McKinnon. We are not that demographic of people who, and there is a very small, I mean, there's people that will say whatever they want to say, on the interwebs. And there are some people like, should we trade McKinnon? Come on.
We're not trading Nathan McKinnon without Sam Girard too.
Yeah, why would you do that? I mean, come on. It's a package deal. Part of me is like, why even bring that up? Because it's ridiculous to the point of offensive. But yeah, either way, Avalanche with their fourth win in a row. They're looking mighty good, and a lot to get to, including the head coach sticking around for a few more years. So we will get to everything. And but first things first, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. It is always appreciated. Follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, go to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. I won't be expecting one from somebody in particular tonight. And follow the show's YouTube channel over on YouTube. Yeah, how's it going? So we'll get to the Avs 7-3 win over the Kraken in a second. But right before the game, it was kind of like a surprise announcement that Jared Bednar was given an extension. His contract, I thought he had one more year on his contract. Maybe just because the past couple seasons with the shortened season, and you keep forgetting that counts as a year on everyone's contracts. I just thought he had another year left, but that's not the case. No, he was in the last year of his deal. And, in typical Joe Sakic fashion, he likes to sign guys that are in their last year to another deal and extend them, like he did with Sammy Girard, like he did with Nathan McKinnon. And he just did it for his head coach too. I don't think anybody's really, I know I wasn't thinking about it. And we get an announcement that he's sticking around for 2 more years after this year. So his contract will go up to the 23-24 season. You listen to the show. I love the guy. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. I think he is the perfect coach for this team with all of the superstar talent they have on it and a lot of egos that they have on it. And he knows how to manage them. He is a player's coach. I'm fine with it. I think a lot of people were thinking, we'll see. I heard a lot of chatter of, we'll see how they do this year in the playoffs, and then maybe they fire him. And the reason I didn't realize that his contract was up, because I'm thinking like they would fire him, or it could have just been they don't re-sign him. There's no firing to be had because his contract would have run out. But no, I think they're committed to him, and they're committed to him running this team. Like I said, I'm good with it. What's your thoughts on it?
I was in the same boat as you. I thought he had another year, but again, looking back at it, it feels like 3 years since Tampa played the Canadiens in the Cup. And then it feels like just yesterday that we signed Bednar after Waugh walked out.
I know.
So like time has been wacky with everything going on in the world, but Jared Bednar is that coach that he's synonymous with Colorado Avalanche hockey. I can't remember the last time we've actually had a coach last long enough to talk about a contract. Usually they're moving or we're moving them. So like I know the Avalanche tweeted out the graphic tonight, but when you look at it, when it feels like he was just signed yesterday, like he's already second most wins in Avalanche history, third most in franchise history, and he's
Yeah.
still climbing. And this is like we're not even a quarter of the way through the season,
Yeah.
so it could keep climbing. Like he's incredible. The mindset and mentality he has the Avalanche playing with right now is incredible. So let's sign him to 4 more years after this next 2.
I'm a firm believer in you don't need to be this screaming, yelling coach to get your point across. I don't want to say those days are over. I don't think they'll ever be over. There'll be, coaches that have to do that to get their point across. He's not built that way. But if you watch those Avalanche 360s, a lot of those behind the scenes stuff are at practice. He gets animated. He gets into it. He calls out players, but he just does it in a different way where to me, it's more meaningful. Like when you just start screaming and yelling nonstop and that's just expected, that wears off after a little while. And I don't know, did you watch the All or Nothing, the Toronto Maple Leafs All or Nothing on Amazon Prime?
I didn't want to cry.
it watch it. It's a 5-episode. The All or Nothing series is awesome.
Really?
Yeah, they don't just follow hockey. Like they follow. I think they do one on the Michigan Wolverines football team. I think there's one on the Dallas Cowboys. They do one on a rugby team in like New Zealand.
Okay.
So they do different sports. And the first hockey one they ever did was on the Maple Leafs. I watched it on the flight out to Colorado. It's awesome. It's really, really good. It's good to see like all the behind the scenes stuff. But by the end of it, their coach, Sheldon Keefe, like I'm not a fan of that guy. Like, yeah,
Really?
he's a good hockey coach, but you've seen the movie Casino, right?
Yeah.
There's more F-bombs in this 5-episode series than there is in Casino. And that's to be expected. I mean, hockey culture, they're throwing language around all the time. By the end of it, it was like the word didn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
He says it in every single sentence. It doesn't hold value anymore. Kind of like Squid Game. Did you watch Squid Game on Netflix yet?
I've caught a couple episodes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like by the end, like the deaths don't matter because there's hundreds of them. So it just you have to approach the game in a different way. And with Keefe, I'm going to say it, man. He, it's 5 episodes, so it's not every single minute of the season. Not once did he take blame for anything that went wrong in the season. It was always the player's fault. That doesn't fly after a little while. I'm sorry, but and you don't see that in Bednar. He will take blame if it's warranted on him.
And I think that's what separates Bednar from the rest of the coaches and his peers in the league. Like you see the hot water that Rick Bowness is in right now. And just a couple of years ago, his run to the Stanley Cup, it was a beautiful, heartwarming moment. This team loves him. Fast forward just 2 more years, and nobody likes him. That's a dirtbag, old school moves. Sheldon Keefe, like cussing people out, like you just mentioned. John Tortorella, he's a great coach, but because of his style, he's on ESPN.
Yeah.
And like Bednar is that kind of style where if he's correcting you as a player, you're disappointed. Like you feel bad that you disappointed the coach.
Right.
So you kind of like,
a good point.
Because he's got your back. Like in press conferences, he says, "Hey, that's on me," or "Hey, that's on them."
Right.
He doesn't play the company line. And when he gets onto you, you're not feeling like that's just what he does. He's constantly just berating us. Like you feel bad that you disappointed him because he had this idea, we didn't execute, and we feel bad about it. And that environment, I think, is what separates Bednar from the old school coaches and these buddy coaches.
Yeah. And it's such a good point because for someone like Keefe, it's like when you lose, you're expecting him to go out to talk to the the press and rail us.
Yeah.
And you're just expecting it. And so it's just a different dynamic. I don't know. So for me, like even with my bosses growing up, whatever job I had growing up, I worked better for the bosses that came to me in a calm and said, "Hey, can you take care of this today?" No problem. Yeah. Not these bosses that come busting through the doors like, we got to get this stuff done, and if you don't do it, then like I don't. I'm a person, man. You know what I mean? Like, you can talk to me like a human being. If I do something wrong, if you ask me to do something and then I don't do it or do it wrong, then that's fair game. But just to have that mindset of like, I'm, guns blazing from the minute like we say go, I'm not built that way. I don't respond to people in a
The
good way that way.
the one way you can determine like how Bednar treats his team and how they treat him, like coaches that challenge plays are those
Yeah.
that have the team's back. When those old school coaches use it as like a teaching moment, like don't leave it in the hands of the referees, like, and
Yeah.
just like something to jab at him. But Bednar believes in his team so much, like it's one of those things we joke about. He's always got his eye on like challenging a play because
Mhm.
he believes in his team, and it's his way of like showing his support in just an
Yeah.
extra way. And like
Yeah.
those coaches that are just there to yell, they don't do that.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, we're happy with it. And I like stability.
Yeah.
I don't like these revolving doors of head coaches. I don't like that. So I'm glad they're even giving him more opportunities, and I want to see him win multiple cups, not just one.
Oh yeah,
So let's
absolutely.
let's bring him home. All right, we're gonna get to the game now. Let's hear from Built Bar quick, and then we'll discuss the Avs' fourth win in a row, 7-3 over the Seattle Kraken. But first, Built Bar, and we've always been touting that for quite a while now. And like I've been saying, Thanksgiving right around the corner. And if this is a time of the year where you're trying to change your diet up and get a little bit healthy for the new year, prepping for that New Year's resolution, Built Bar can be a part of that, because we always look forward to the desserts and those dessert trays that come around on Thanksgiving. We'll pass a bowl of Built Bars around. It can be done, and they are just as delicious as your favorite slice of pie, which can have upwards of 300 calories on the low end. And most Built Bars are only 130 calories with 4 grams of sugar and plenty of protein. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, and again, high in protein, and even covered in 100% real chocolate for all the chocoholics out there. And stay tuned for Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendars, because Built Bar always does some really good deals, and even maybe some new flavors going to be announced on Black Friday. So go to builtbar.com right now. Use the promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off of your order. Once again, the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at builtbar.com. Okay, sir. First game ever against the Seattle Kraken. We were all hoping we'd see that matchup between the Avalanche and Philipp Grubauer, and it was announced that he was not going to be the starting goalie. And that was a little depressing. I think, whenever stuff like that happens, especially for a goalie, you want to see that matchup. You want to
Yeah.
see him facing against his old team. But the Avalanche kind of said, well, we have something to say about that. And they went out, and when did they it was after 3 goals? I think it was 4 goals.
Yeah, I think it was either 4 or 5.
I think, let me,
It might have
he
been
gave
4.
he gave up 4. Yeah, and Grubauer, and then Grubauer gave up 3.
Mhm.
So yeah, they they pull their starting goalie, and the Avalanche, I'm not saying they get what they wanted, but the fans got what they wanted in seeing Philipp Grubauer come out. Yeah, and he gave up 3, but this thing was all said and done and over by the third. The Avs give up 3 in the third. I'm sure they took the foot off the gas a little bit in the third period, but overall, just another dominant performance by the Avalanche. And this is a team, and I use the phrase a lot, of imposing their will. They are a better team than Seattle Kraken, and we talked about it yesterday. These are the teams they need to beat. There's very few guaranteed points in the league, and I'm not saying the next time that they face off against each other, it's guaranteed 2 points, because the Kraken are going to remember this, that they got wiped all over the ice, and they'll come back out fighting, just like the Canucks did when the Avalanche beat them 7-1, and then they play them a week later, and the Canucks played a much better game. But in the end, the Avalanche still are a better team than a team like the Canucks, and obviously a better team than the Kraken. So you have to be feeling good, even though you're a superior team. 4 wins in a row. This is just, I think, a confidence booster for so many players on the Avalanche, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those that each win that we keep overcoming, like they're starting to believe in themselves a little bit more,
Yeah.
and you can easily see that. And like we were messaging during the game, like I can't remember the last time we've had that feeling like let's hang 10 on them.
Yeah.
Like it's
I
been a
know.
while. Like it's
Yeah.
like since like we're squeaking through and you never feel confident about anything. And it had
Yeah.
that feeling like, oh my goodness, the Avalanche are going to do something tonight. And they just and it up until that first goal that Seattle scored, like late, it was about midway through the third period. Like it never felt like they were taking their foot off the gas. It was just never ending, just goal after cycle after shift. And you felt good about this team. And it's good to feel good about the Avalanche again. And it was such a commanding win on the big stage and in Seattle. So I mean, it's on the road in a brand new barn with a brand new environment. So
I mean, even though that team is not playing well in Seattle, I mean, that city has been waiting for that team since they were
yeah,
announced. So, they're going to come out to their games and they are going to root them on, even though they're not expected to do much and they're playing poorly. So, yeah, it can be a difficult environment to play in.
mhm.
But the Avs took them out of it real early. Um, Eric Johnson had a funny quote saying, "I didn't score on Groovy 4 years in practice, and somehow I scored on him today." And I put it up on Twitter. Cale Makar scored on him too, and it was I said one of the problems that Grubauer had for his entire duration of being an Av outside of injuries was rebounds.
Yeah,
He let up some thick and juicy rebounds a
yeah.
lot, and the game happens so quickly. You don't know what's going through the minds of the players. But did Cale Makar know that when he's coming up on the right hand side and he's got a free line of sight and a free shooting lane right at Grubauer? Um, and that's exactly what happened. He threw it kind of right at his midsection. I don't know if it went off like his side, or I don't know if it went off his pad or not, but the rebound just happened to come right back to Makar. And I think Cale Makar was thinking, like, if I can just get a shot on his body, it's going to bounce somewhere and maybe somebody else will reap the benefits. It turned out to be him, and it came right back to him, and he netted it for another goal. It was pretty.
You wonder if that was something that Hackstall was thinking about putting Dreger in there, knowing the Avalanche knew Grubauer so well. And
Yeah,
as I mean, Grubauer has one of the worst save percentages in the
he
league
does.
right now.
Yeah,
And do you really want to put him out there with those kind of numbers against a team that knows him better than any other team they're going to face? Like they
yeah,
used to face him in practice. Like, do you want to just spiral him down into the basement? I'm pretty sure that's what went into this and giving Dreger the start. But one way or another, we're going to get you. And we got Grubauer in the end. And I mean, and Donskoy didn't end up hurting us either. He's still without a goal.
no,
So
nothing.
the two players that um, aren't wearing the Avalanche sweater anymore that are playing in Seattle were not part of the equation in this
No.
game at all.
Um, yeah, you have to wonder if because the Seattle head coach said he had talked to Grubauer, and he didn't let on what was said. And do you think it had to being Avalanche fans and him being an ex Av, you're thinking, oh, he just doesn't want to go up against us. He's afraid of us. Like, that's probably not the case. It's fun to say that on
Yeah.
social media, but it could have been one of those things where, like, maybe he's saying, like, they know me too well, like,
Yeah.
and that could be the reality of the situation. And maybe
Yeah.
our best shot is with the backup for tonight.
Take the night off. The numbers aren't great. This team knows you and they will make it worse. Just take the night off. We'll
Yeah,
address this later. And he had to go back out there because you're not going to leave Dreger out there to dry like
no,
that. Like,
No.
you don't need two goalies spiraling mentally off of
Yeah.
bad performances. So you had to do
Yep.
the coach move of pulling him. But I mean, he used to be an Avalanche, but it's rough to see Grubauer in this spot. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So it's kind of rough to watch.
Yeah, definitely. All right. A couple more to get to because I don't say it got ugly towards the end of the game, but just some questionable calls on the refs. And I think if it was, a 3-1 game when these calls are made, I think we'd be much more up in arms. But when it's 7-0, 7-1, you take it a little bit easier, but still there's some, you can't just let them slide.
No.
So we'll talk about that right after betonline.ag. We're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more prop bets and odds and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football and hockey and whatever your sport is, all that action this season. Head to the new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, the NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. It's where the game starts. BetOnline.ag. So, yeah, the Avs had everything in hand, and Seattle gets one. Who was the first one? That Eberle. Yeah, Eberle on the power play scored, and then Tanev got one on a power play. I can't remember exactly where these calls, which one was made. I think the Logan O'Connor one
Was the knee.
That was the
The
knee, and you
first.
know what? Like that is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't stick the knee out to trip him. He actually brought his leg in closer to his body, but he still tripped the guy. And a trip is a trip, so he's gonna get called for that. I didn't have a problem with that one. The one I had a big problem with was the boarding. Who was that? Who's the boarding? I think I was on.
Abel.
Abel Kubel.
Yes.
Yeah, that was just. I mean, I don't remember who he checked, but that guy was just. He was not. His weight was all shifted all over the place. Like, he was not on his skates well, and it's not like he was falling to the ice. That was a good hard check, and that was garbage. And even who said it? Andre Burakovsky after the game said some of the goals that they got were actually a joke, flat out. That's coming from Andre Burakovsky. He's not happy about it, and I get it. And you're up 7-3. I mean, what's the? You don't not call it because the game is out of hand, but you don't call it. I mean, why are you calling it? If it's a penalty, call the penalty, like the Logan O'Connor one was. Boarding, I feel like we're getting into this world here where it's like, if a guy goes into the boards and his balance is off, we're calling it boarding. I don't agree with it.
I think both penalties were evidence of it looked worse than the penalty called for, and
Yeah.
it just, like Logan O'Connor's knee. Like, if you watch that in real time, like, you're like, ooh,
Right.
And that's where the ref hand goes up, because I mean, you're in Seattle, so of course that newer hockey crowd's going to overreact to something like that. So they're like,
Right.
in that bang bang moment, you're just going to be influenced. Okay, that's something. You go with it and roll with it. Same with that boarding. Like, in real time, like, it looked terrible, and then once you kind of gather everything, he's in the boards. He must have boarded him. And then, like, the more you look at it on a replay, you're like, no, that's not boarding, because you have hits up against the boards and, like, some charging with boarding that don't get called.
Right.
So I think that was more of just, it looked worse than it actually was, and they had to do something.
And then during the second power play, I think it was, after that boarding call, some dude on Seattle jumps on the back of Jack Johnson And I'm really good at telling people stop doing piggybacks because my kids want to
Yeah.
do it all the time and they get hurt doing it. So I'm yelling at the screen like for a second I went into dad mode and I'm like, get off his back. And he didn't let up. It's
No,
like he wanted to get a penalty called on him, whoever it was. I don't remember who it was.
I
Because he
don't either.
jumps on his
Yeah,
back. He doesn't let up. He ends up ripping Johnson's helmet off, which is a penalty. Nothing.
nothing.
So we just go back to the inconsistencies of what you are calling and what you are not calling. And for them not to call that just made me feel like they wanted to give the Kraken something to go home with and finish the game on a positive note, which they did by scoring 3 goals. But it was from some assistance from the refs, and you can't deny that.
And it was the beginning of the 2019-2020 season. That was the big point of emphasis. Like, you lose your bucket, you have this allotted time to gather your bucket, or you get penalized, or if somebody gets in the way, and like that was their point of emphasis, like how we're seeing cross-checking this year. And that's gone by the
Yeah.
wayside. You don't see that ever called or enforced. So, of course, when all of us went through
Well,
that, you see the bucket being taken off. And I know Bucci, he talked about it in the broadcast,
yeah.
uh, talking about he has this amount of time to get his helmet. But in that moment, I believe they were in the power play, and refs will do everything in their power not to go to a 5-on-3 or a 4-on-3 because
Hmm.
they hate that. I don't know why, they just do, and they do not like to go to those situations.
Well, they were calling literally everything in the preseason when it
Yeah,
came to cross checking.
yeah,
And then you have seen it. Yeah. And in the preseason when they were doing that, I'm like, okay, if that's what you're going to do, be consistent with that all season long.
and it's not.
It's a penalty. If you're going to call it the way it's supposed to be called, like what you're doing in the preseason, fine. And it's I mean they are calling it obviously,
Mhm.
they are calling it. But the game I went to against San Jose, Sammy Gerard gets deliberately cross-checked in the back when he's just skating back with the puck. The puck kind of got kicked loose from their offensive zone and kind of went back into their and he's just going to collect the puck, and I don't know who it was on San Jose in open ice. Nothing.
Nothing.
So it's just the inconsistency is just glaring, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating because you can see things that are just clear as day and you're expecting an arm to go up and it doesn't. I don't know. It is
And
what it is.
if the referees weren't so much in that moment calling both that the roughing for Logan O'Connor and the boarding,
Right. What
like
was the
if
roughing on Logan O'Connor? What did he do?
there
And
they called Miko, I believe, for roughing as well for responding, or
they called Miko for roughing after Kadri got thrown into the pipes after his
yeah,
goal.
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on. Come on.
And it's just like if the refs knew, like it's like 7-1, 7-0 at that point. Like if you want this game to be over with, let's not start this now.
And remember Jack Hughes won
Yeah.
a game in overtime and he threw his stick into the crowd.
Hmm.
I loved that.
Yeah.
Trevor Zegras for Anaheim just did the same thing. The game is over. The second that puck crosses the goal line, the game is over.
Hmm.
He threw his stick into the crowd. They gave him a 10-minute misconduct after the game is over. There's no when's he going to serve that? The game is concluded. He can take his entire uniform off and throw it into the stands if he wants to, and you can't fine him for a wrong uniform or whatever. Uh,
That
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
it's absurd.
Um, so, but we're talking about it on a 7-3 win, and I think that's when we should talk about it. It doesn't matter if it's a 7-3 win or a 2-1 win. Bad calls are bad calls.
Yeah.
And you saw a few of them tonight. So, another quote from Jared Bednar says, "We're getting to the point where we are a contending team. I like our group, and I'm excited about where we can go." Yeah, you just get that feeling. You just get that vibe that it's starting to come together for the Avs, and it's without Nathan McKinnon. and now it's without JT Confer. So there's always somebody down on this team, but they've been doing this for a couple years now where they keep their head above water. So,
and I was talking with one of the co-hosts over at the Lamplighters with me, Alex. He's a huge Blue Jackets fan, and we were watching this game tonight, and I was like, what do you think about this team right now? Because we watched both those Blue Jackets games, and he's like, this is a completely different team than what we experienced. He's like, you guys are rolling. So it's a big adjustment from that period, and we have Ottawa coming up Monday. Let's just keep it rolling. Absolutely, just keep it rolling.
Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of November, a 7-3 November would be good, and then you lose the first 2 games in November, and you're like, oh, that's not going to happen. But they're 4-2 right now for the month of November, so things are looking good. But power play looked good. 2 out of 4 on the power play. Power play seems to be rolling right now. Your faceoffs were atrocious. You lost faceoffs 37% to 63% in favor of the Kraken. So you want to see that improve, definitely. As far as points go, you had Burakovsky with the 2 goals, Kadri with 2 more assists. So he keeps piling the points on. Makar with the 2 goals and 1 assist. I thought I heard them say that one of Makar's goals, not the one that rebounded off of Grubauer, the other one that he shot from the kind of the point, went to Rantanen. I thought I heard them say that on the broadcast, but maybe they were saying it like it could go to Rantanen and they're looking at it and it never did. I don't know. Maybe I just heard something that did not actually happen. What else we got? Yeah, Makar with the 3-point night. Murray with an assist. Eric Johnson with the goal. Rantanen with 1 assist. Kiefer Sherwood with an assist. Good for him. Darren Helm with an assist. Newhook with an assist. Tyson Jost with 2 assists. And Chuskin and Abu Kubel with 1 goal each. So a lot of points spread out, and that's going to happen when you score 7 goals. From top to bottom, pretty good night. I don't think anybody really played a terrible game. You know who was kind of quiet for me? And he didn't score anything. Gabe Landeskog.
Yeah.
He made a really nice defensive play on a back check, but he was just kind of doing his business out there last night. I didn't really see him doing a heck of a lot.
No, he wasn't doing anything, but when you have Berkey getting 2 and Kale getting 2, Gabe knows he doesn't have to do too much more.
Yeah.
He's just like, okay.
I mean, right. How many they score in the second? 4.
Yeah.
So you're up 6-0 after the second. Yeah, I mean, maybe you take a little bit of the night off in some capacity.
Yeah, you focus on the defensive, and you just want to get out of there clean, so you don't push too much.
And the game healthy.
Yeah. Veteran moves. That's what you call that.
All right. So 4 in a row, and the weekend off, and then the Ottawa game is Monday, right?
Yeah. And this is Ottawa's first game back since the shutdown. So.
Right. They haven't canceled it, right? I mean, I haven't heard anything that there could be signs that they continue this cancellation of their games. I don't know.
I heard Ray Ferraro mention that 8 of their players came off protocol today. So now they have a roster. They are practicing, and they mentioned the point that their first game back in a week is a mile high. So that could be a problem. But Ottawa needs to get back on the ice and make those games up, and Colorado needs to keep this train rolling. So Monday could be another good night and a great night to be an Avalanche fan.
Yeah. Things are panning out the way that we wanted them to. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to a special Saturday edition of Locked On Avalanche. Thank you to Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, as always, for joining, and get back to packing.
Yes.
And we'll see everybody on Monday. Thanks for making this your first listen of the day. And enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Go Avs, go.